Hey, I know you don't smoke weed. I know this. But I'm gonna get you high today. Cause it's Friday.
Yes.
You ain't got no job.
Yes.
And you ain't got shit to do.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I thought you'd been cooking something. I was about to say, man, this is different. This is different. I don't know if Webs do this too.
I guess so, man.
Well, no, I'm referring to the last little beat you had on.
Oh yeah, this all him, baby. And we're back.
Yes, sir.
Another episode of Hot Takes and Half Truths. This is your boy, Ivy Joe.
And I already know, Just King, and I'm back, baby.
And we are Hot Takes and Half Truths.
What do you agree with?
Go to disagree.
Look at that, man. Like Style and Kiss, man. Like P and Kiss right there.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I want to thank everyone that came out last week or 2 weeks ago down in Essence Fest. Was a part of the episode live from Essence Fest.
No doubt.
Alex Haysberg, Kelly Carter, Israel Wilson, and my boy Tuhori Hatch. Feel free to want to thank all the new hot takers and half truthers out there.
Welcome
To the party, so to speak.
Yeah, I appreciate them boys, man. It was a very entertaining episode, man.
Yes.
You know, listening from across the pond, if you will.
Already.
Yes.
But definitely stayed up to date, man. But so I appreciate those boys, filling in and keeping things spicy on the episode. A lot of hot takes.
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like basically my opinion was on the episode, that episode.
What?
Because I heard LeBroning.
Yes.
Did I not? Okay.
Yes.
I heard LeBroning. There was a few other things that were said too, but I feel like, they definitely kept the hot takes alive and well during that episode, and it's much appreciated, man. Appreciate it, fellas.
Make sure on all our social media and platforms to subscribe, follow, like, share,
Comment.
already. Send in any topics that you want, questions that you want us to address on the show.
Yeah.
With that said, how things been, baby?
Man,
Been a while.
Busy. Grab my beverage.
Gotcha.
Things been busy, man, but busy, but I'm blessed. So no complaints there. Just trying to keep up with everything that's coming my way, and
No
move
doubt.
forward. So
No
what
doubt.
about you?
Roughly the same, man. A little bit of traveling, working on some things on the side. Sort of like you.
Yeah.
Opportunities coming my way.
Yes.
There you go.
And we gotta do what we gotta do, baby. Keep this shit rolling.
Well, I forget the name of that movie. I think it was the Mechanic or something. Jason Statham.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
There was like a Kimber at some point in the game. You know what a Kimber is, right?
Yeah.
The pistol.
Yeah.
1911.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yes.
But, so at one point in that movie, you see the Kimber laying on the side, and on the slide of the gun, it said "Victory loves preparation."
Yes.
So, opportunities. If you prepared, it's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
So clearly, you've been prepared for these opportunities, and good things will happen for
Yeah,
you.
when them things come your way, you just gotta be. The thing about it is, like you say, if you stay ready, you're always ready. You don't have to get ready,
That's right.
so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So, I guess the drink of the week this week is gonna be water.
High quality
H2O. And with that said, I guess we'll go ahead and try to do a little bit of.
Dog been holding out.
Hey man, I went out there ready, baby.
Dog been holding out.
I went out there ready.
Y'all can't see what I'm holding up, man, but Ivy made some business cards.
Yeah. I wanted to have something to where at the very least, if I'm talking to someone about it, I can put something in their hands.
Yeah,
'Cause I know
definitely.
There was a cat out here. You get used to cats coming to you saying, buy my CD type stuff.
Yeah.
And the cat was like, hey man, just, whenever you get a chance, take a look at my my channel and drop me a card. And I was like, damn. And that card stayed with me, although I wasn't really looking at it. And every once in a while I'd be like, man, this is actually a good thing. Cause while I didn't initially go to the channel, I eventually did. And it was based on the fact I had something that made it home.
A reminder, yeah.
It made it home. So I was like, that's a good idea.
No doubt, no doubt.
So, a couple weeks before I went out there, I was like, fuck it, man. Let's go ahead and give me a couple cards and let's see what it do.
I ain't mad at it.
Let's see what it do. With
I
that
ain't mad
said,
at it.
I guess we can go ahead and try to do start with what you're listening to. You been listening to anything new, man?
Just glancing through some things. I mean, Crit drop.
Hey, you walked in on it.
Yeah, definitely.
So we can go ahead and say that's gonna be I've been listening to that the last week or so.
Okay.
I know I'm a little behind, but it's just pretty straight, man. That's a good body of work.
Yeah, definitely.
Good body of work.
I've only made it through it maybe twice. But so listening to that, I'm giving the Jaden Smith album a listen. Obviously, the Dreamville joint, Revenge 3.
Okay, I need to get on that one.
Yeah, that's a crazy project, man. You got to watch the documentary. There's a documentary on YouTube. I don't got a business card for you, but there is a documentary on YouTube, man. So check that out. And that kind of puts things into perspective of what that album was.
Okay.
But it's like a compilation album to the fullest. And I'll summarize the documentary basically, but they rented out a studio, or they had a studio booked or whatever, a certain amount of rooms in the studio booked for 10 days. And it was just, all free, all are welcome basically. So they had every artist, like just any artist that wanted to just walk through, get on the track, they took every verse and then, I don't want to say weeded out, but and then went through and edited, who they wanted to keep on the song or whatever. So they had people like T.I. stop through, Crit.
I think I seen that was all like on like whenever they would do like IG posts and stuff like that. They had all them dudes coming.
They had their little invites, their flyers and stuff.
Yeah.
Which shout out to them because I rolled it. I completely stole their flyer for an event that I'm doing. I like that concept though. But yeah, you're gonna get one of these. Don't worry about it, man. And you'll appreciate the colors, but just make sure that next. Just peep that, but make sure you're available at that time next year.
Yeah. Oh, also, there's some things that came. Okay. Yeah. There's some things that that's kind of dope, actually. Some things that came around while I was in Baton Rouge that we're gonna have to talk offline on, but
no doubt.
There's definitely some things coming down. But at the same time, just let's finalize that big crick. That latest one is kind of hard. So, pick that up, listen to it, stream, whatever. I definitely endorse it. It's not one of the more upbeat type of joints.
But Crit isn't that type of artist.
Exactly.
He isn't. And
exactly.
He had one album that was kind of upbeat, but it's not him. He doesn't make radio records. He makes like soulful records, and he likes to sample soulful songs, and he likes to sample UGK, and you really feel UGK in his music too.
Yeah, he's definitely a disciple.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, shout out to him, man. I love Crit, his production. He got an interview where he was just kind of just giving himself some light pats on the back or whatever. But he's like,
sometimes you gotta do it, man. You gotta pat yourself on the back sometimes,
absolutely.
Especially if you doing, especially like from an artist perspective, you're doing what you want and you believe in your work. I mean, sometimes you got to be the one to toot your horn a bit.
Yeah.
So
he's one that he can do it. He can hold his own because I done seen him rap on songs with Lupe, and it's like it feel like Lupe was the up and coming rapper, and that's just what Crit brings, man. Production value. He mix well. He samples well. He knows how to blend sounds. He can hit you with a like that. His My Sub series is my favorite. Okay. Because he just give you a simple beat with some 808s or whatever, and it's just like, okay, this thump, this something that you have some 12s or 15s in the back that is like, all right, that's definitely slapping. But then he always, at some point in the song, he flipped the beat, throw something soulful on over it with like an old UGK or UGK 8-ball MJG sample or something over top of it, and it's just crazy, dog, to see how you can flip, and merge two different sounds, totally different sounds into one song. But don't get me started, man, because he's one of my favorite artists. So yeah, but definitely listen to that. That Crit Is Here album.
Crit Is Here, and also that Dreamville. What is it?
Revenge of the Dreamers, Part 3.
already, and Jaden Smith.
Yeah, Eris or whatever that's called.
I'm gonna have to take a look at that, man. I mean, I follow the Smiths on IG, and that, it's always entertaining to see them. And I guess he had like a little show out here in the last week or so.
Oh, okay.
In Miami, and they had I guess they had a family vacation, and he was late to it because he was flying in from Miami. So
there it is.
I guess I go ahead and check that out.
I tell you this, man, Jaden Smith is a very underrated artist. Okay. I will say that because I listened his last album, and I'll say this, Maul from Joe Budden podcast, I align with what he said. And it's basically,
and what did he say?
Basically, if Jaden Smith's name was if instead of Jaden Smith, you take the same songs and you say Drake made this album, that's a platinum selling album. Okay. Right? That was the last album. This album is pretty good. It goes into some sounds that aren't really hip hop. Okay. It's got like almost some like rockish kind of ballads and stuff on there. But he does have some songs that definitely they fit in well with hip hop and they fit in with the sound, and he sounds like one of the new kids and is like something that'll get the club going. And yeah, like I said, it's just the fact that it's Will Smith's son is just kind of like, oh yeah, but that's, we don't take him seriously. Yeah. But if Drake made his last CD, platinum album.
I sort of feel the same way, I guess talking about the same family with Willow, because she doesn't do as much on the artist side as far as like recording music anymore.
Yeah, but she just had an album drop.
Yeah, so we don't have to go too far into that, but that's definitely a talented family. And I guess I was looking at it the other day. I was looking at the last little Will Smith kind of compilation on IG of him and his family. Like literally, it's when you first think about the first family of like our community, you think the Obamas, but the Smiths are right there. Yeah, the Smiths are literally right there just because they've been around so long.
I think the only reason we don't consider them on top of that is they really are just becoming visible. Yes. Like, and Will Smith talked about that where before as an actor, it was like, your mystique worked for you. Mm-hmm. But now as if you're in the entertainment business, very few people are able to, maintain their draw and have no like social media presence or interaction or whatever. Like your Kendricks, your J. Cole's, Jay-Z, but that's about it. Yeah. At least in hip hop, for the most part, people have to, be relevant. They have to be on the scene. And, until Will Smith came around to that, and Jada with the Red Table Talk, we didn't really see or hear from them until it was time to do a movie, and then it was the promo runs, and that was it. True. But, so yeah, listen to those albums.
Good deal.
What's up first, man?
So we're gonna jump into the Netflix, being that, this is a topic kind of, piggybacking off a topic that we had earlier on.
Get it out the way.
I want to start with something that we into, and then end with something a little more that we like lighthearted. So
okay,
I thought we'd start with the Netflix, being that that's something that is hot off the press, so to speak, with my boy Eddie Murphy reportedly signing a deal, or in the cuffs of signing a deal with Netflix for roughly
70 M's.
Big ones. Now
that's more than Chappelle. That's more than Chris Rock,
reportedly, because we don't know the number. The final numbers ain't quite there yet, but at the same time, yes.
Yeah, okay, but if he signs this deal, let's say that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We're dealing with the guys that he's going to sign.
And we don't know. I didn't read the details. I don't know, so we don't know how many projects.
That's kind of because
right, so
most of the guys that they bring up is Chris Rock and Chappelle. And basically, they got 20 per. Yeah. And Chris Rock did 2, so that's 40. And Chappelle did 3, so that's how they got their 40 and 60. We're not sure on how many. Like, it's still, again, this just dropped in the last day or so. Yeah. That a mega deal is coming down the path for old Uncle Murphy.
Yep.
So. With that said, I mean, I know you I guess what brought this up to you was more or less the Monica.
Yeah,
Monique. I'm sorry, the Monique.
Man, you gonna she gonna come for you.
Yeah. You know,
she gonna come for you, Leonard. So I guess I just wanted to revisit it, man, and see, do we call bullshit on Netflix after this? Just to get to the point, right? I'm not trying to belabor this topic, right?
Nope.
Before we said, or at least I said this before, was, Netflix had some metrics that they were using to determine the payout of their, what they pay out to people they are, signing deals with. Mm-hmm. And based on that information, they said Monique was worth about $500K for a special.
Yeah.
That she couldn't shop around, that she couldn't perform or make any additional streams of income off of. Ultimately, Netflix would own the rights, and she couldn't do nothing with that material for 2 years. That was what Monique said that they told her.
Yeah.
So I submit to you, with Eddie Murphy signing this $70 million deal, with Eddie Murphy in discussion for a $70 million deal with Netflix, do you call bullshit?
The thing about it is I can't really necessarily, and we kind of talked about it offline a little bit, but I can't necessarily say that it's bullshit per se because, Monique isn't Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy is a complete legend in the game. Like, complete. You know what I'm saying?
Yes!
He a legend. You know what I'm saying? I don't
Monique
put
is too in her own right.
I don't put Monique in the same pantheon as Eddie Murphy, though. So, now, granted,
I think
I still think
because you haven't seen her in red leather.
But I perhaps.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, perhaps. But
Monique in the red leather.
The thing about it is, Eddie is just, he's a legend. You know what I'm saying? Everyone that does that, shall I say? Eddie is in at least top 10.
He's regarded by comedians as a legend. So amongst his peers, he's a legend,
exactly.
Not based off of
but
accolades or accomplishments and Emmys and awards.
In doing a little, research for this discussion, he kind of was at the forefront, with his Delirious and Raw of kind of like this is the path of how to, blow up in this game, so to speak. So he's on the forefront and he's still quasi relevant at this time. I would say he's relevant, but I'm not a real. I'm not in that game.
By today's standards, he's not relevant at all. He's not active. He does like a music thing, but even that's not really catching waves of attention.
But at the same time, he's relevant in the sense that everyone wants to, like, if Eddie was to come to town today or tomorrow, and are you not trying to see that? I guess I venture to the local improv a little more than you do, but
I go for acts that I really want to see. So I don't go often. I'm not gonna front like that, but would I go? If I knew in advance, probably I plan it. Be like, okay, this should be a good time.
Especially with the fact, like I said, he doesn't do it often. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like he doesn't get on stage often. You know what I'm saying? And if he's in the area and you can get a ticket, you're gonna try to see if he still got the funds.
But he has a draw. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
Eddie still has. He captured. He is the Kevin Hart, if you will, and I don't mean that
before Kevin Hart.
Yeah, but my analogy, right?
Yeah.
What Kevin Hart is to say millennials, Eddie was to baby boomers.
Yep.
Right. And maybe a little bit baby boomers. Who came after them? We go baby boomers straight into whatever.
I guess
whatever that generation
X
is after them.
Y
Yeah.
And the millennials.
So he baby boomers X, Y. That's Eddie. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So he's going to have a draw from like late 30s to 60s.
Yes, especially from like the clumps and what Daddy Daycare and all that type of stuff.
Yep. So that's all Eddie. Even into the 60s, 65. Because that was that age that was listening to him during Delirious and what's the other special? How am I
Raw.
forgetting it? Yeah, Raw. But as far as millennials, if a millennial told me I don't really want to go see him, I'd understand completely because they grew up on Kevin Hart's comedy, and not saying that Kevin Hart is funnier than Eddie, but Kevin Hart was the dominant comedian of their time, and though I think their careers kind of parallel each other's in a way, blow up. And what I mean by that is blow up with stand up first and then take off, in the movie realm. And then you gain your stardom, your superstardom, more so from movies and from, comedic acting than you do from actual stand ups and stuff.
Yep.
But I still think Eddie was at a tier of his own. He was
at least to the extent after the 80s. Because, once the 90s came, he was more of a actor with the clumps and like Daddy Daycare and
and he still did stand-ups.
Yeah,
but movies is where I think he set himself apart from other comedians, right? And yeah, so all right, so I guess so you're not calling bullshit on Netflix. You're saying that
I see the business aspect of it. He's a bigger draw.
You're saying they can't miss with him, so they feel like okay.
Yes, that's like it's hard to miss with Eddie, especially being that it's been that long. Especially if it's going to be a stand up. If he's giving stand up hours, like that 70 million doesn't include like special shows or him filming shows, akin to like the clumps, like revisiting that and having some like a series.
Yeah.
But in that instance, like I said. It's been so long since he's been on stage. It's going to draw. It's going to draw. Just like, it's been so long. Like it's been longer than Chappelle. And you saw how that drew.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't argue that. I agree with you, and I hate to say that because I feel like I'm contradicting myself from my previous stance. Mm-hmm. I just think, I think Netflix is the bad guy in this instance because they softballed her out of the room instead of just telling her what it really was. That like, hey, we did some calculation. We don't think we're gonna get our money from you. They kind of gave her excuses for lack of a better word without having all the details. But they did. They it seems like they did bullshit her a little bit.
Yeah.
But just to not insult her or maybe, to cater to her ego in the moment, to, not have her leave there completely, feeling offended. But, this just, when you put this on top of it, it don't look good. It looks like, okay, y'all completely bullshitted us.
But
that's the perception.
So I will admit that it seems like they did lowball her. I think she's still worth 7 figures. So in that instance, I guess, there's a bit of, I'm calling bullshit on, but at the same time, I can't put her in the same level, or at least from my perspective, I can't put her in the same level as Eddie.
Okay.
Yeah, man, it's just, that's a big deal, man. When Eddie comes out of retirement for all intents and purposes and come back on the stage, that's a big deal.
It's what he wants.
That's a big deal, and it could be, I guess, worth $70 million at this point. Because of his history on stage, or at least,
I like to know how Netflix even determines what something is worth, given that they have a recurring revenue stream. Mm-hmm. Like, they can't make more money because Eddie Murphy is there. Like that, there can't be that many people signing up.
But
all you got to do is give them another email address to get 3 months for free.
So what I will say is, their stock numbers is heavily
plummeting,
tilted towards new subscribers. And while, like you said, you can always give them different email addresses, that's the number that they always, bring up when they talk about why their stock went up or went down.
Yeah, but
like this last time, their numbers went down. Like they was expecting to get 5 million new subscribers and they only got like 2.9.
Yeah, but they always give a reason for that because that's not the first time it's happened. But it's a platform, it's a technology, so it's easily scalable. So what are they doing? They're trying to launch in other countries, in foreign countries and stuff. So and usually when they run into a hiccup in the country and can't launch on time, like in India or something like that, then they don't meet their projections, but they usually recoup it. But even that, right, is like that's not Eddie isn't the reason why Indians, are signing up for Netflix. And then you're still, based on your customer base, you got let's say 1 million customers at $11 a month, right? You're
15 now.
$15. Jive turkey suckers. Yes. I gotta start looking at my bills, man.
Hey, honestly, I know a few months ago, like to sign back in, it was like telling you, like, oh, your bill's going up. So that's how I knew.
No, I changed my mind. Netflix is bullshitting. They bullshitting. You ran up my bill. You get no bail from me.
Yeah. Well, with that said, I mean, it was a interesting bit of news this week. I mean, I know, like, when you brought it up, I was like, yeah, it'd be a good topic to talk about for a second, at least revisit it for a minute, on behalf of Miss Monique or Miss Precious, so to speak.
I said yeah before I knew what you were going to say after Miss, for the record.
Hey, I'm here for all the smoke.
The people you pick fights with, man.
Hey, man, I ain't picking no fight, man. I just, you're not on the same level as Uncle Murphy, as I like to say.
Oh, here we go.
And hey, I'm looking forward to it.
What you mean, as we like to say?
I mean, well, I like to say then, Uncle Murphy.
This is where the agreeable disagree. We don't, even if we agree, we don't agree.
I'll take that.
You was on my team last night while I was talking with that scammer, though. You see, I just said we every time just in case he wanted.
That came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is? I was like, let me make sure my man see this, so he may have to deal with someone.
They called me talking about you shouldn't be scamming people, man.
Where the hell did this come from?
Come on, man. Be smarter then.
With that said, next on the docket, we get a little bit more political. It's another topic that we talked about on past episodes. Essentially, the tax cut that was passed about a year ago now. We said it then. I mean, we kind of mentioned that the Office of Budgetary Management, is it? I think so. Basically said that it was going to be they projected like 1.5 trillion in additional debt that would be caused by the tax cut, and essentially in this fiscal year alone, the deficit went up 23%, roughly 750 billion this fiscal year alone. We're only 9 months into it. Now, granted, spending is up roughly 7%. It's 6.6%, which is roughly 3.4 trillion in spending.
So, wait, just so I can make sure I'm hearing you correctly. You said the deficit increased by 750 billion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Spending is up, so the government is spending more money, and we already know that they're spending more money on like defense. But revenue is up right at 3%, 2.7%.
They actually building that fence?
They're not. Well, I mean, technically they've been building the fence.
Yeah, but I've seen videos of them building it. That looked like like the construction combine. It's like a bunch of contractors out there trying to prove that they could build the fence.
Well, I mean,
like,
I know
got a backhoe. Ugh.
I know that like he was doing a lot of like press runs where he was showing like different kind of walls that they could do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
and they spending millions on that as well, just like to show what they can do.
It's like auditions by a construction company. Though.
Yeah, but the majority
How
of this,
well can we pour concrete? Ooh.
But the majority of the spending is more or less upkeep, maintenance on the already existing walls.
Yeah.
With that said, Trump always talks about how much money they're making on tariffs. That's coming through customs or whatnot, and that's up. It's doubled in that same time frame to roughly 50 billion. But that's not, equating or making a dent much into that 750 for all intents and purposes. and they're saying that the debt limit will be hit sometime in September. So you can expect another fight in the Congress.
Yes.
About raising it. So like I said, Department of Defense spending is up 8.5%, and at the same time, and it's one of those topics that I like to come back to, just because like I said, when we talked about this originally, I was against the tax cuts, and primarily because of Republicans always talk about how they're fiscally conservative, and they want to dot the I's and T's about how they spend money, but then they get in power. This is what they do. Mm-hmm. They spend, but at the same time, revenue's going down. So that was interesting to me, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring up the topic just a little bit, and I guess get your takes on the matter.
I don't know, man. I never feel like I get all the information when they start talking about the deficit and stuff. And, I read, I'll say the comments, I guess, at the bottom of the article sometime to see what people are feeling. Yep. And you never really get a middle of the road response. You always get somebody that says, like, this is, we'll never be able to repay this debt. This is, driving us right into the floor. This is, we're extended too much. That's why the dollar's not worth crap anymore. And, I don't really agree with that one. I think that's one extreme, far left. And I think the far right is it's build the wall, something like that. Right? This is why we need the wall. We need that to protect the economy and all this, that and the third, right? Because Mexicans are stealing all the jobs or something, apparently, whatever their logic, they come over here and they, I don't want to spread his propaganda, but the things that they say is a result of, illegal immigration. I don't agree with that either, right? So, but from a business standpoint, in the U.S., countries are businesses, mm-hmm. right? No big player in a business, right? No Fortune 500 company does not have debt.
True.
No millionaires that of don't have debt. Like, they get to being millionaires by managing debt.
Yes.
By utilizing other folks' money to make them money.
Yes.
Hey, can I borrow $5? Yeah, but if you borrow $5, I'm going to need $1 when you repay me. Okay, boom. Yep. Then somebody else says, hey, you got $5? Yeah, I'll give you $5, but when you give me back my $5, I need 10. Okay, when he repays me, I repay him. I'm net 4. Yep. Whatever that math works out to be, right? That's
yes.
That's what it is. It's let me use your money to make money and then pay you back at whatever interval we say. So I understand that. But when you start talking billions and trillions, I mean, that shit's daunting.
Yeah.
Hell, I ain't never seen, I could barely write that number, man, without double checking the commas. So, hell yeah. I mean, it scares me to see it that high. But again, you're running a nation. You're running the largest, economic powerhouse in the world by GDP.
Currently.
Yes.
Right? By GDP, who's second? China?
Yeah.
Okay. And we got a pretty good lead on them.
Well, they should overtake us in the next 20 years.
Should, but we'll see.
It's just that they're just so much bigger than us. That's really what it is.
They are, and they expand everywhere. Yeah. So it's, it is what it is. But I think this is another discussion that we had that we didn't agree on prior to actually recording the podcast. Mm-hmm. I feel like, but with the whole China and GDP and whatever.
What about it?
I don't remember, man. It was a long time ago, but I'm getting deja vu right now because this was one of those bar combos. I don't know why we even talk about this shit at bars, but whatever.
When the liquor get to flowing, baby. Hey, you never know what time.
Yeah, you don't shoot none of them down. That's for sure.
Nah.
But that's just how I feel, man. When I hear it, I'm intrigued by the business implications of it. I don't never think it's a bad or good thing. It's just okay, let me try to see if I can, make sense of this a little bit. And once I can kind of see a logical pattern there, then I just all right, we'll be all right.
So I guess my concern with it is that is essentially a a conservative wet dream as far as running up our debt, because eventually we're gonna have to pay for it. One sooner or later, someone's got to pay for it. The people that's in power right now, the baby boomer generation, and I guess even Generation X, they may not be the ones that actually going to end up paying for it. It's going to be the next generations behind that's going to have to. And
shit, that's me.
And while and just to kind of turn back to what I was saying earlier, as far as like being a conservative wet dream, that's whenever they start talking about privatizing stuff, this is what they're talking about, because in their mind, that's the one area of the economy that is still relatively untapped as far as businesses able to get their hands on and make money off of, and then utilize the capitalistic mentality on it. Like, how can we make more money? How can we drive down costs and increase profits? And the thing about it is, and this kind of goes back to my background with the NPA, while there are a lot of synergies in both, as far as the public and the private sector, as far as how you can run the business more effectively, ultimately, and I guess I just had a little bit of deja vu as well. Ultimately, because I said this before, ultimately, the public sector or government's job or their ultimate goal is to provide a service, whereas private sector, the ultimate job is to turn a profit.
Yeah,
and inevitably
create.
Yeah, inevitably
shareholder value.
Exactly, and inevitably, when your main goal is to do that, then the service aspect of it is gonna fall. It's gonna get less of a priority. And the one thing that they always try to say about it is that, why would we want government to do it? They can't do nothing well anyway. But if you are, at the end of the day, we all know in order to give service, you have to spend money.
Yeah.
You have to actually,
take some to make some.
Exactly. And they're actually playing into their role as far as, hey, if we're able to privatize this and make, the service shitty, then they can, what they're railing on all the time as far as, the government does a bad job, then it's like, yo, you just did that though. This is that you kind of, exacerbated that circumstance by putting a dollar motive behind it.
Yeah.
And so in that instance, eventually and inevitably, the funds aren't going to be there. The revenue is not going to match up, and then there's going to have to be some drastic cuts.
Yeah.
And then you're going to play right into their hand. Like, now we need to cut these different programs that, a lot of Americans depend on. Whether it's, for, healthcare as far as Medicare, or even, when you talk about a lot of the special needs, kids and individuals, they depend a lot on government services. And those usually be the first ones that they actively try to cut. And so, if people don't see this coming down the road or are not aware of it, well, then in their mind, they're thinking, I made a couple extra $1,000 this year. But on the flip side, in a few years, that extra couple $1,000, first, it's going to be gone. But secondly, even if it stays there, you're going to be spending far more to make up the difference in your services for what you were getting for far less value, for, as far as the value is concerned. And that's, I guess, my concern with, the continued deficit jump as it currently is, and we're not really focusing on things that help your everyday citizen. But that's kind of my, when I saw that about a week or two ago, I was like, see, and here it is. It's right in our face, and I bet majority of the people out there, Americans, not even that, it doesn't register with them, because we always had some type of a debt.
Yeah, and I mean, and because we got other shit to worry about.
True. Which is,
people trying to keep their lights on. So the same people you talking about, the ones that need help, the ones that, got to bust their ass to make ends meet, keep the lights on, keep the bellies fed. So they don't got time to sit down and read, the GDP and fiscal summaries of the United States.
And interesting enough, there's this topic I want to discuss on a later podcast, but there was a recent study group that's going around. It was dropped probably about a week ago, and essentially it's a lot of people that are in that demographic that
What demographic?
as far as working Americans and not really making that much income.
Yeah.
And kind of how this particular focus group was looking at the presidential race, and they had a lot of different interesting commentary on kind of what their takes was on the different candidates on the Democratic side and how they match up against Trump and their likes and dislikes on both. And it's sort of disturbing to say the least what came out of it, but it's definitely one.
This goes back to our original
Yeah.
conversation in front of Jumani, right?
Uh-huh.
At whatever that restaurant was over there off
Longboat.
the
What is it? Longboat Johnny?
Johnny Longboat.
Johnny Longboat.
Johnny Longboat. Shout out to Johnny Longboat. Good drinks over there. This podcast was born at Johnny Longboat's. But
Yes.
that's what that conversation was about, is that you think people should be paying attention to certain things,
Yeah,
and
like
it's,
And
the truth is counter,
And not to get too far into it, because
we in the weeds.
like I said, I want to discuss far more in a future podcast.
Yeah.
And I'll shoot you the information. But there was one particular statement where one person, and everyone agreed, was that they were upset with certain corporations and how they pay the CEO so much money, and then they ship jobs overseas, and they're talking about how those companies view themselves as more global companies, and their ire was more or less, but you're a U.S. company, and I'm a U.S. citizen, and you're taking jobs away, and how disappointed they were, and that they were like, no, you should be taking care of us, and
yeah, but they're U.S. based.
And
They
but
operate out of the U.S.
But I guess the one thing that dawned on me, or at least I found interesting, of most of these people, I bet if you ask them, they believe in the capitalistic society or the capitalistic economy that we run. And if you know anything about it, and maybe this goes back to the business degrees that we have, that most of these companies and these CEOs, first off, the CEO's pay is based on what his board allows him to make.
Yeah.
That's first off. So it's not like he just paid himself that.
Yeah.
The board was like, we need to pay him that.
Yep.
And secondly, going back to the capitalist economy that we have, it's based on constantly growing. And the only way you're going to constantly grow is in certain instances, once you become a mature, product or whatnot. Once it becomes mature, at that point, it's about cutting around the edges. And cutting around the edges is lowering your operating costs.
Yep.
And in order to do that, I can't pay people what I'm currently paying them. And you know what? I can get the job done overseas.
Well, you can't. Yeah, that's what it is. Right?
I can get the job done overseas.
People look at it, and it sucks, right? And I'm the victim of layoffs and things of that nature. We had that talk with the union and stuff like that. So,
Yes.
I speak from someone who's been through, a company going through financial crisis, and just like, we can't do it, so we got to get rid of people, right? Mm-hmm. But companies, on a global scale, there has to be somewhere else that's ripe for that to happen, for them to relocate resources like that, right? So it's not just, we're gonna go to Ukraine and start up call centers there, right? Mm-hmm. The places where call centers were set up already had the infrastructure. The people were already kind of doing that. That was their thing as like a nation. You know what I'm saying? You look at manufacturing in China, right? Certain cities, China has cities that are, where we think, oh, if you go to, Pittsburgh, they got an industrial district. China's got a whole city of factories where literally 70% of the world's manufactured goods come out of that city. So the infrastructure is there. It's literally, we've talked about ideas where it's like, oh yeah, you use this. If you got a month where you could wait on some inventory, it's like, oh, they got it. You get off the boat for $3 a unit, right? That comes out of China. You just got to wait for the boat to get over here, right? But the infrastructure is there. So these companies do have to do their due diligence to say, okay, this place is, coming up in this certain arena, and it may be viable. And sometimes they got to give it a couple of years for it to happen before they go. But, back to our union discussion, people got to constantly be training themselves and not to be complacent in the job, in the workplace. I just, before I came here, I was late because I'm down trying to learn how to tile, bathrooms and stuff and lay tile. And I sent a picture to my frat bros and was like, hey, I know y'all got, these behavioral science degrees, these criminal justice degrees, engineering degrees and all that. I say, but don't forget how to use your hands. I say, because at any given time, your job can go through a financial crisis that has nothing to do with you. And then now they got to start cutting ties to, try to save the company. Right. And in that instance, what are you going to do? Yep. So if you know how to, cut some grass or lay some tile or do some plumbing or something like that, you might be able to, fall back on that trade. In the meantime, keep yourself and your family afloat. True. While the economy, rights itself.
One of the homies back at the crib, your frat brother, Tyrone Pierre, he makes a good living doing that type of work. So
and you can. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
But I guess to piggyback on what you were saying, one last thought on that little conversation was, on one hand, I don't think that they saw the forest, so to speak, as on one hand, I know they'll probably say, yeah, I believe in the capitalist society, but this is a byproduct of it. Like
double-edged sword.
But I bet they wouldn't say that. In their mind, it doesn't even connect that, hey, it's because it is a capitalist society and it's about growth and we got to constantly show growth, even if we're manufacturing it by performing the work somewhere else.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, another thing, a lot of these people, they want to, they're comfortable in their situation in the sense that they're not willing to do what they need to do to
grow,
continue, not even grow, but continue their lifestyle. Like, say, for instance, a lot of times it's just a matter of people saying, the job's on here no more. I got to go down south with a job where I can get a similar, where my skill set still will have some value.
Yeah.
They want the jobs to stay in their town and their region, and it's like, sometimes you got to pick up and go, like
they will move
like I did. You know what I'm saying?
You call that comfort. I guess it is like an extreme level of comfort. And I call it complacency.
Yeah.
And it's inherent.
Tomato.
Yeah, it's inherent. And I'm not saying it like we're immune from it or
Nah. No, we're not.
Because we're not, and that's just, we're the company for, 20 years. When you see companies, have layoffs or let go of, their more senior employees and then hire on like cats out of college for, right? And and what it is, it's just them working the system. Right, because they can hire these college students, probably get rid of somebody making $100K and hire 2 college kids for $40K a piece.
Yep.
Right, and then it's like,
do
they know exactly what he knows? No, but give them a year or two, they'll be making, even if they made, let's say 10%, a 10% raise, they'll be at 44, right, after a year. So that's still not $100K.
Nope.
And they know that much more. And if I can just teach one of them half of what this guy knew and the other one half of what this guy knew, I'm making up my difference, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe there's 1 or 2 or 3%, 5%. We could live with that, but we save money in the end, right?
Yeah.
And what you got to look at is that those kids, even though that $40,000, to a senior employee might be like, that ain't no money. You know what I'm saying? That's no money. But to a kid straight out of college with student loans that ain't got no money, who's making 12 grand, you know, working at the grocery store bagging or something like that, that's money.
Yeah, it's good money, and it's with a good company.
Yeah. So they're just playing the system. Yeah. You know, they get benefits, vacation, and all that stuff. That's a come up for them.
And it goes, like I said,
that's part of the game, man. That's part of the game. So that's why I sent that text out saying what I said. That's exactly why I said it, because you can make good money if you're willing to work for it. Get out there and work for it. You know, you don't got to be a victim to the system, but you know, you got to humble yourself, and you know, and you got to be willing to learn something new, even if it's welding or something. You know, whatever. Mm-hmm. You know.
All right. Well, anything else?
Nah, man.
All right. Well, next on the docket, still on the political realm.
I love his politics, bro.
Yeah, I do.
I love his politics.
You know, I want to make sure that we do our part.
Articles.
We do our part. Like you know, I get the little email every day, and so whatever comes across that resonates with me, I always shoot it to myself and be like, "This is gonna be one we're gonna talk about." Okay.
Well, let's jump into the next one, man.
So our European brothers over in France, has voted into law a tech company tax that the White House has taken umbrage with.
They taxing the techies.
Yeah, and essentially it's really only going to affect about a couple dozen companies, but the majority of them are U.S.-based companies. And essentially, it's 3% tax on companies that have essentially 750 euros or roughly $850 million in revenue a year.
Global revenue.
And, worldwide revenue.
Yeah.
And also makes at least 27 million in France. So the White House is currently investigating it. They're making a big to-do about it because, and I guess we talked about China already, but this is another aspect of trying to mitigate the China tariffs because we're currently in the negotiating process of negotiating a new, I guess, trade deal with Europe. And part of the trade deal, what they want to do is include agricultural purchases by Europe, more increasing agricultural purchases, which would then, in theory, offset the losses that we currently have with China.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, France and even, Europe, they have a lot of those laws against GMOs. And so that's why and France is one of the main holdouts as far as not wanting to include that.
Yeah.
And so with them doing this, it's kind of one of those things where the White House want to kind of like point them out. And they're using this 301 investigation tool that they have that they actually use to put those tariffs on China. And now they're doing their research now to kind of offset those. So, again, the reason why I wanted to talk about it because this is one of those situations where a lot of people can kind of get lost by looking at the tree instead of the forest. Mm-hmm. And really this tariff, so to speak, is based on the fact that you guys, or at least in my mind, it's more of if you don't want to take more of these agricultural purchases, then we can start putting tariffs on you, and they're threatening 25% tariffs on France if they don't kind of back down on it. And this is kind of their tool, so to speak, to kind of get them back in line.
Yep.
I don't even think they really have a problem with the tariffs, the tax per se.
No, but it's leverage.
But exactly. They're looking at it from a perspective. What we really want is to take care of these farmers that we're fucking over. And in order to do that, we need to do what we can to weaken the position of one of the few final holdouts in this new trade agreement. Any thoughts?
I mean, you took the main topic and then you expounded.
I mean,
you went down. You 2 levels of inception on that.
Well,
thing.
I mean, but that's the whole point. Like I was like, I saw this, and then as you start doing a little more research, and then you start seeing like, oh, so it's really right now about that. the holdout that France is not willing to agree with with a few of the other members of the EU and Britain, England, should I say, and this is one way to kind of like weaken them as far as like, yo, if you you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah.
And we're prepared to, implement tariffs specifically on you because, like, technically speaking, you would think that it would be hard to just carve out one country when essentially they're, negotiating with the EU, the Union.
Yeah, but I don't believe the EU would ostracize France like that.
No, they're too big of a player.
Yeah, they wouldn't ostracize them like that. So they wouldn't give them up. But I mean, that's not saying that America wouldn't hold the EU accountable at that point and say like, okay, well, fine, then here goes a 25% tariff on all y'all on whatever imports or exports we get from there.
And this is one thing I forgot to mention in my rundown. They're also threatening to double taxes on French expats in the state as another part of a penalty on them.
So what that means is anybody from France is working in America, they're gonna double tax them.
Yeah, so that's kind of like they
increase their taxes to where it may no longer be beneficial. Because a lot of people, when you travel overseas and you work overseas, it's like you almost like you're getting a tax cut. You expense a lot of that stuff. You're living on per diem and all this, that and the third. So to run into an instance where your income tax or whatever you are being taxed in that foreign nation increases to higher possibly than what it would be to be back home, you reconsider employment and you leave that country.
Yes.
I did that in Alabama.
Yes.
When they started saying we had to pay out-of-state taxes, it's like, oh boy, get me off the road. What you doing?
Okay.
What is you doing? It's like I live in Florida for a reason. Facts. You know what I'm saying? What was it? At that time, it was Florida, Tennessee, Texas, and one more state where they didn't have income tax. So, but that was because I was based out of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they got me in Alabama for 60 days. And they talking about, okay, well now you got to pay Alabama state income tax on the last. What? Oh, I got to go. See ya, Dothan. See ya. Mm-hmm. I got up out of there, boy.
So I guess the tax came about as far as like France is concerned. Most of the existing companies in France pay roughly a 23% tax, and currently tech companies are able to kind of skirt around it, and they end up paying somewhere between 8 and 9%. So this is, I guess, their way of mitigating.
Welcome to the party, France.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about it is,
Europe, they're not paying taxes here either.
Europe is on the forefront of trying to figure out a way to tax tech companies.
Somebody got to,
because they, as everyone knows, tech companies, because they have such a light footprint, they are able to escape a lot of taxes that they don't necessarily, that most companies typically with the brick and mortar have to pay. Because
they don't require brick and mortar. They don't have, like you said, they don't have a footprint. It's all servers and it's scalable. And again, servers are, you look up there in like the Scandinavian countries where it's nice and cold, they got server farms, So it's like they don't even have to build any additional infrastructure anywhere. They just leverage what's already existing and say, hey, we signed a contract. Here's a bunch of money. Just let us in the door so we can use your stuff. And all of a sudden, boom, instant access to a nation or multiple nations of people, that were otherwise, unattainable to them.
Yeah, and I guess the biggest thing is, with technology moving the way it is, that this is kind of like the new wild wild west in the sense that governments don't know really how to properly tax these people. And at the end of the day, the thing about government in a lot of different fields, it's more of a practice. So it's about figuring out, how can we effectively, tax these companies that are making, billions and trillions of dollars off of it.
And government agencies are lagging, agency. They're
exactly.
not ahead of the curve. Things have to exist for a while to catch on and then, understand how to adjust, legislation and adjust, just the system to capture, a lot of what's going on. So that's what, these tech companies. I was watching a Gary Vee video, and Gary Vee made an interesting comment where he said, everything we're talking about today, most of everything we talk about today didn't exist 10 years ago.
Nope.
So when you think about that, when you look at, the stock market and you see Netflix booming, Amazon 1,000, $1,800 per share.
Mm-hmm.
Apple, I know they only like $200 or whatever dollars now, but that's after a 7-to-1 split that they did 2 or 3 years ago, and that's after another split that they did 5 years before that.
Yes.
So Apple is technically trending higher than Amazon.
Yep.
Technically, right? So when you start looking at all that stuff, you realize that, like, man, these boys, like, they came out of nowhere. They came out of left field, and just opened up shop, and they getting them off.
And they getting lots of cake.
And they getting rich, man. When you see some of these investors, Uber, you invest $1 million, and now it's like your million is worth 300 something million, and they able to pay you off just like, here, take it, man. Here, we'll buy you out 300x your money. Because it's pennies to the dollar for them. Uber was valued at $154 billion at one point or something like that. Maybe it was just 54, but it was a high ass number for a company that was only 3 or 4 years old at the time.
But and I guess to even go back to what
wrong with that now. I want to be
and I guess to even go back to kind of piggyback what you said about 10 years ago. A lot of things wasn't here. 10 years from now, a lot of things that we don't even know is coming down will be the big player at that point. So it's all of it's sort of like the story about FedEx when they was talking about how they actually expanded and got as big as they was because their major competition UPS was basically that was a dinosaur. Like, you cut off their tail, it take a while for them to realize that, hey, my tail just got cut off.
Yep.
And once they realized it was too late. And so it's sort of like that with the government. Like, it takes a while for them to finally figure it out how they're going to approach it. But once they do, it's the gavel in that court. It's law, baby, and they coming for their coins.
Yeah, facts. So I just did a quick Google. So I didn't want to make sure I wasn't off base with this number, but they were valued. This was early 2018, about $56 billion. But some company, they said Toyota invested in them, and then if you do, I don't know how they did their multiples or whatever, price sales multiple, $120 billion through somebody's price multiple valuation of the company. $120 billion, and again, we weren't using this when I was in college.
No, they were fairly new in 20. I remember the first time I used them. I had an interview in business school in Minnesota, and at that point, Uber was only in certain areas.
Yeah.
And one of my homeboys, shout out to Tariffs, he was one of those guys that his job took him different places, and he was like, "Yo, you going up there? Use this service as your like car service. It's cheaper than the actual, to get the actual what is it, the Lincolns at that point."
Yeah.
He was like, you can get your Lincoln car service for a lot cheaper than going through and that's when I was brought on to it, and that was like 2013.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I guess at that point
6 years later.
Yeah, they are $120 billion company.
Yeah, and I didn't look at their market cap and all that stuff, but that was just a valuation. So that's what somebody said they were worth.
Yeah.
There's assumptions and all that in there, people. So don't kill me for it. But I just wanted to.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't too.
But when you brought that up, when you brought it up, I thought about it because I remember when he sent it to me. I was like, yeah, because it's not everywhere, but it's certain places, and Minneapolis was just one of the few places that they actually had the Uber thing moving around. Because I remember downloading the app and it being like, we're not in your area. And it was nowhere near me either. But it was like, shit, well, I'm flying in. And I think I didn't have to use it from the airport because they had, the company sent someone for me, but I was able to use it.
Get around a little bit.
Yeah. But
No doubt.
With that said, I mean, anything else on that, baby?
Nah, man. I just, I think people are going to start finding ways to tax them. So this is the kind of the first, but we'll hear more about it, and the number might go up, it might go down. I will say this, the little bit of research that I did on this topic. So we're talking about how much these companies are worth, right? $1 billion, $1 trillion companies, because Apple is $1 trillion company. Amazon is a bunch of billions, if not $1 trillion company. Uber, $1 billion company. So you said, only about a couple of dozen of them would be American companies. Mm-hmm. They said, as far as the France tax, they said only about 30 companies globally would be affected.
Yes.
And only,
a few dozen.
Yep. Well, a few dozens, 24.
Well, you know what I'm saying?
So, but of the ones that would be affected, France is only looking at, grossing like 500 million off of this. Yeah. So it's not, like they're not crippling these companies by any means, right? But what they fear, or what the tech companies should fear, is that, if France gets on board and then Spain gets on board, and then
it's
the
domino.
EU gets on board, right? How
it's
many
a
countries
domino.
are in the EU? 28?
Yeah, it's
28, but
about 20.
Britain left. So.
It's about 20. But it's a domino effect. Once one do it, it's sort of like
Rocky 4, when Rocky hit Drago and he saw he could bleed, he went back to the corner.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it was.
It's sort of like in the States with the marijuana proliferation. Once
you're trying to use real analogies.
Well, but
here's a real analogy. When that dude Ruiz hit Anthony Joshua, and Anthony Joshua back in the corner, like, why do I feel like this? This is why you feel like
yes.
this. This is why you feel like this. Yeah. David and Goliath, baby.
Yeah,
take that.
But at the same time, I mean, the main point of me bringing it to you, and I guess we can wrap it up. But the main point of me bringing it to you, I know we kind of got in the weeds a little bit on the topic, but I saw it as just more of a negotiation ploy. As far as like the U.S., jumping into it and saying that, we think this is unfair, and starting to do the, investigation on it and threatening tariffs and taxing their citizens that's in the state. It's just more or less, if you see the forest, they want this. Yeah. You give them that, they'll back off of it.
You call it negotiation. I mean, they just dropped their balls on the table is what they did.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it ain't negotiating. It's not, we think 3%. And you're like, okay, well, we think, 3% is a bit harsh, so maybe 4. It's like, get on board.
So the thing about it is they, that's a sovereign country, so they can do what they want.
No doubt.
And it's not like the states, it's not like we're actually going to do it, but at the same time, they threaten it. So they're threatening it by saying that they're going to do the research and start investigating it. And if they feel this way, we could possibly do tariffs and we could possibly do this.
Flex.
And so in that instance, it's, knowing that, you guys are also the one, y'all the fly in the ointment, so to speak, with us getting what we want, at least on the agriculture part.
You said the fly in the ointment?
Yeah, fly in the ointment. You know how they do. You know how those people say
it. Shit.
Hey, you know how the people say it, man.
No, I don't.
Well, that's what they say, baby. That's what they say.
We'll do a segment of Bayou euphemisms.
No, that ain't a Bayou euphemism. That's more of a
fly in the ointment.
What is it? I guess the majority euphemism.
Yeah, put that on a business card, man. Let me take that home and look that up, man.
Yeah, you got it, baby. You got it. But that's what I thought of it when I was going through the research of it. I was like, man, they not tripping on the tax because I know they're trying to figure out a way to tax them. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, a couple of these companies, the guy in the White House don't like them, like Amazon. Like they don't like each other. Yeah. So this is just
more.
They've
been praising Trump since trying to get out of this, with the tax thing because they don't want to pay the 3% taxes. So now they're like, oh man, look, the Trump administration, thank you for going to bat for big tech.
But those two,
companies, don't like y'all.
But that's like a classic example of I'm, in this instance I'm gonna go to bat for you, but that's because I want something Now, once I get what I want, hey, pay your fucking taxes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's what I found interesting. That's what I found interesting about the topic.
Okay.
With that said, anything else, baby?
Nah, man. Not on that topic.
Not on that topic. All right, last on the deck today is a little older, but I found it interesting. I thought I wanted to discuss it with you, and it's the Nike, the little Nike kerfuffle from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, from the 4th of July.
Yeah, based on the nixing of pair of Air Max Quick Strike 4th of July.
Yeah.
And essentially, they were pulled back based on talks with Kaepernick, and they said based on essentially it was a symbol of slavery. The flag that was on it. There was what is it called? The 13 stars.
The original 13 columns.
Yeah. And I found it kind of interesting in the sense that on one hand, I guess I can see where I guess the reservation would come from. I guess the people that's in the Kaepernick corner. I guess from my perspective, that's the history of the country, though. As far as that flag being the original flag.
Yeah.
I guess in some, I guess you could take it from a perspective that it represents slavery, but I in my mind, that representation is more the Confederate flag and not the original flag based on the premise that when we did go to have that civil war, it was because the people or the majority of people that was a part of the original 13 was in the North. Yep. And it's one of those slippery slopes for me, in the sense that I feel like it's a much more linear equation when it comes to like Confederate flag, Confederate statues, that type of stuff. Whereas this is more like now you're trying to whitewash actual American history. Like whether you like it or not, when we started this country,
there were 13 colonies.
It was 13 colonies. Yep. And slavery was
slaves.
Slavery was legal then.
Slaves in all of them.
But when it was time to go to war for it, at that point there was a clear division. Yep. And in my mind,
Mason-Dixon.
That's the symbol that should be the issue, not the original 13 stars. Okay. That's pretty much my take. Coming in, I thought it was a slippery slope. I think they run a risk of going too far. I guess with the 40 laws of power, you got to know when to say when, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And I think this is kind of one of those ones where I think you probably, in that instance, they probably, in my mind, could have went a little far.
Yeah, maybe. I think Nike is playing, I think Nike knows who their customers are.
True. No, I get that.
Right? And I think they know that largely, a large percent of their customers are minorities. Mm-hmm. And I think that, I don't want to call it pandering, but I think that they are listening to, because if Cap said something and they decide to pull it, they pulled the shoe 3 days before, so the shoe was produced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was to kind of go back on last episode when we talked about StockX. It was on StockX and it was going for $2,500.
Yeah, the shoe was produced,
and it was I guess it was manufactured. I guess the retail value was $150.
Yeah. So the shoe was produced, right? Some people got a copy of that shoe.
Yeah,
you got
it's out there.
Yeah,
it's out there.
So it's not like Nike didn't have take a financial hit from this decision. Yeah. But I just think they've chosen to align themselves with more progressive views. To back someone like Colin Kaepernick in a time where he was basically being blackballed by the NFL. And made to be this kind of pariah in the league, right? All right, we're gonna make an example out of him. Kind of, the same thing they did with Vic in a way, but with no jail time. You know, we just gonna make it as hard as possible as we can for him. You know, no matter what he does, we're not gonna give him a chance or whatever. Let the public have their way with him and let him die by public, execution of his character, not literally. But I think Nike is, they seek this feedback, and when they get it, they put such a spin on the story that it makes them look better somehow.
It goes back to, like I said, that's the founding flag of the country.
I understand that.
But
do you not? Right now, we are in racially motivated, such racially charged times.
And I guess the one thing I should make note of, before we get too far into it, because I'm not trying to sit here and say that
you got a pair.
That's not.
Right now.
Yes. But I guess so. One nugget that I guess I need to say is that flag has been co-opted by the white nationalist movement a little bit, and it's under the Patriot movement. Yeah, they're calling it the Patriot movement. So I mean, there's something there, but at the same time, that again, it goes back to what
that was all Cap said, right? Or at least in the quotes. This whole information age thing is tiring, by the way, because I see articles that say Cap didn't say nothing. I see articles that say Cap said something. So, and the ones that said he said something, that was his comments, was that this flag has been, basically adopted by some white nationalist groups, and it may be contradictory to basically the stance that Nike has taken on equality and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Right. So with that, they got that feedback. They halted, not production. They probably did halt production at some point, but they pulled the shoe from the shelves. Like, we're not going to release these shoes because these are the views that might exist around the shoe. And honestly, had they done it and had that surfaced, and had that story kind of taken flight and caught wind with Black Twitter especially, it would have done more damage to Nike than the YTs not wanting to buy their Monarchs anymore.
I guess my only rebuttal to that is just to speak.
The YTs.
I guess to speak plainly, they were kind of some dope shoes, man. I would have wanted to buy them. I kind of like the flag. I mean, I don't have. I mean, growing up where I grew up, the flag that symbolized that, and even a little bit to the day, it's two flags. It's the Confederate flag, and then that "Don't Tread on Me" flag with the snake. The one that
Chris Pratt.
I forget what it's called.
Chris Pratt was wearing it the other day.
But those two flags are the ones that are the main symbol of that movement. And this is one of those ones where it's like, if I say, for instance, the majority of the people that buy them is Black people, and that's who got it on their feet.
Yeah.
How that really, and it's not like it's going into these white nationalist pockets.
Yeah, man, but we know how it go, man. Like, white people be sneak dissing.
Yeah.
And because, we are a minority, I had to deal with this. I've had to deal with this in the workplace. It's like you saying something to me,
but you're not saying it to me.
And I know what you're saying, but you're not saying it. You feel
Yes.
me? I hear you.
Yeah.
And I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I can't react the way that I would react if you said what you really are trying to say. Right? Because you get my money, as we used to say in the field. You get my money. And then all of a sudden I get painted in this light. And you are, okay, well, he's got experience or whatever. We know that story. That story is old. You know what I'm saying? And this could have been one of those instances where, I consider myself to be somewhat, read on like African American history. To enough. I'm no scholar. I don't have, a degree in it or anything like that. But I know enough to where you won't catch me wearing some of this stuff. Right? But the average person would say what you just said.
Exactly.
Like my nephew would just be like, oh, these are so dope. He probably wear it was a Confederate flag and not know.
Well, so that's the only difference. I don't see. I don't
like Cap.
I don't see the 13 stars being that though. The 13 stars are just that's where we started at.
And maybe you don't, but that's what I'm saying. Is like if they're secretly adopting it, right? The white nationalist group, and we're wearing it, it's kind of like ha ha.
I don't think it's even that deep. I don't even think that's gonna.
It might not
grab. Like it's almost like saying, oh, it's almost saying like, what if these same white nationalists decide that the American flag is not we're gonna co-opt the American flag.
We're dealing to that anyway.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo,
Star Spangled Banner don't slap.
Where does that start? Where does it stop? Should I say? You know what I'm saying?
You know,
I mean, at the end of the day, that is our symbol as a country. That and the bald eagle, even though it's sort of a, what is it?
Don't you call the bald eagle racist now?
No, but it's not as regal as we like it to be. They scavenge as well. They're scavengers.
I've seen them catch a deer.
They big creatures.
They are
huge
massive.
creatures. I didn't realize how big they were until I moved down here and started seeing them.
Yeah, I was gonna say they live everywhere. You'll see them up in the mountains in like Montana, and you'll see them all. I don't see them
much. Like I guess there's different type of eagles. There's a certain kind of eagle that we see in Louisiana, but it's not the ball. But I haven't. When I moved out here, it was the first time that I saw a real bald eagle, like in the wild.
Like 4 feet tall bird.
Yes, they long as motherfucker, man.
But anyway, but they're not racist. So like to clear that up. The bald eagle is not a racist bird. It's not a racist symbol.
Yes.
But yeah, so I just think Nike, since they aligned themselves with these progressive views of inequality and like, hey, we're going to support be in support of all races, colors, creeds, and support it. I believe they've done like LGBTQ ads as well, right? Mm-hmm. So they're basically saying, hey, we believe in human life. So if there's anything that can possibly be representative of a group saying they're superior to another group, then they don't want to support it, right? I just think it's genius how, because somebody, probably got their wrist slapped.
Yeah.
As in like, yo, you didn't do your research and you didn't know this. Like you put 250K shoes in production, but you didn't know this. But kudos to their marketing team for putting this positive spin on it and putting it out there, because it almost garnered more support from their minority customer base, because it's like, good job, Nike. Like they're getting a standing applause from Black Twitter, basically. Wow. And which is like, I don't know why a lot of places use that as like the voice of the minority consumer, but
exactly, that's an echo chamber. But again, I like I said from the beginning, I just feel like it's sort of a slippery slope.
Yeah. It is.
Because like that again, I like to think myself as a progressive. In my leanings, I'm more progressive. I definitely consider myself a progressive. Even though I'm conservative some aspects of my.
But we all are, man. Nobody's completely to the left.
I definitely lean more progressive, and even in my view, I felt like, man, that seems a little.
It's getting too far.
That seems a little much to me. Like, that's the original flag,
and that's
that is our history.
So I say
all the way,
and it's pulling in another story, but and we don't have to comment on this story, but it was I think, I don't know what he is, the owner, CEO of BET.
Okay.
Said something like that, right?
That asshole.
Yes. I'm not saying I agree with what he said or with any of his views, right? He said a comment where it's like, okay, things are getting too far to the left, where he aligns more with a more centric, viewpoint on some topics, right?
Gotcha.
And that's ultimately what, I believe everything in life is cyclical. So you go through times of, intense conservatism, and then the slingshot effect, right? Is because people get tired of being oppressed and held down while, the rich and the wealthy continue to prosper. And then it's like, dog, I'm struggling. And then when the majority, right? Because the majority isn't the rich and wealthy. The minority is, or the majority is the impoverished.
Yep.
right? So then once we realize that, okay, we have a voice and we have money together, right? And as rich as they are, our money collectively is worth something. Once we start voicing and standing up, then we pull some of that power back. But then on the flip side, we go too far with it, and then you got to deal with the recourse, right? So you can go too far progressively, I think, and I think you can go too far conservatively.
Yes.
So, this is one of those instances where it's like we possibly could be making something that's not even there.
Yeah, making a mountain out of a molehill.
See, I know that. I know that one.
Yes.
Damn fly in the jelly.
Fly in the ointment, man.
Fly in the ointment.
I mean, because it ruins the ointment then.
Put the cap on the Neosporin, man. What you doing?
Right. Hey, man, I'm just saying, baby. It is what it is. All
right, man.
With that said, anything else on that, baby?
Well, yes and no. I mean, go ahead. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead. I like to show that to the people watching.
Yeah, I looked out for the young man.
To show that
for the good bro.
For the people watching, on the YouTube channel. If you're not watching, go check that out. Hot Takes and Half Truths
podcast
on YouTube. I'm showing Ivy got my little man a gift. You know what I'm saying? LSU Tiger onesie.
While I was in the bayou.
3 to 6 months. So little man is growing. He's up to, I think he's over 15 pounds now. So
I figure he'll get a good month or two out of that.
He's growing.
Yes.
Double his weight since birth, more than double.
And
he gained like 5-6 inches on him lengthwise. So.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier this. You sent me, I guess on Twitter, you was talking about leaving the beard game, and I was like, he really trying to look like Justice now.
Oh, here we go.
Yes.
Yeah, even that backfired, man. I cut the beard off for the interview. And then I get home from the interview, and the wifey is like pissed at me. And I'm like, well, what I do now? I don't know. As a man, you just kind of your mind just wanders when your wife is mad at you and you don't know why. I was just, but just like, where's your beard? Because I cut it after she went to sleep the night before, so she never even saw me.
Okay.
I'm just like, man, that thing had to go for this interview. It is what it is. But yeah, so cut it. Thinking I was just gonna go back to the mustache mafia. We out here. The goatee gang.
Yes.
We out
yes.
Here. Merch coming soon. But so now I pissed wifey off, so I can't get no love in the house now.
I'm sure things would be better tonight.
I'm sure things would be better. I make sure of that.
So I guess with that said, how do you feel about that interview, man?
I think it went well, man. I think, they asked a lot of situational questions, just on tell us about a time when, or if you had to deal with this, how would you, So generally speaking, behavior wise, I think I pretty much, I align with the corporate values and stuff like that. So that's easier questions for me, at least I think, to answer. But it's just stressful, man. When you got interview coming up and you got to kind of prepare for it, but you're not trying to over prepare to where it's like you're a robot.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where I feel
yes.
I the last interview I had, not this one, but the one before that, I prepped for like a week, so I was stressed out for like a week, and I was like, I felt like I killed that one. I'm like, man, I murdered that. Like, man, I went OD on the interview. So this time I was like, I'm gonna step back a little bit. So I took maybe 2 days, not even, like a day, to like really sit and go over some questions and just prep myself and prep some answers, and I think I did pretty good, man. So we'll see what so far I got feedback from 2 people that said I did good. 2 people that were on the panel, so shout out to them.
Already.
We'll see what happens, man.
Already, man.
And maybe trying to get your boy up out of here, man, to the West Coast, the best coast of Florida.
You say so.
I gotta get you out this Tampa and St. Pete, man.
I mean, I've been there before. I like it out there.
I gotta get you out there, man.
That was like the first place in Florida that I went to was Tampa and St. Pete. It was cool out there. I mean,
gotta get you out there. Miami got South Florida, East South, because USF is in West Florida. I don't know why, but I gotta get you out there, man. It's a nice.
Yeah, it it reminds me of what I would think South Florida would be, because it's a lot more. It felt more like home than down here.
Yeah. Well,
It felt more like I'm still in the South, but down here I'm like, nah, I'm not. This is different than the South, baby.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, it is different down here for sure. But yeah, we'll have to get out there, man. In addition to the flyer that I showed you, the trip that I showed you that is coming up next year. Good times to be had, folks. What a time to be alive, baby. On that note.
Well, with that said, make sure you follow, subscribe, like, share at HT Squared Pod on IG and Twitter, Hot Takes and Half Truth Podcast on SoundCloud and YouTube. And again, as I always said, if you're truly new school, old school, feel free to reach out to us via email, htsquaredpod@gmail.com.
Email us.
Yeah, and you can always reach out to me as well at I am Ivy Joe on IG and Twitter.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut in.
You all good, baby.
And you can holler at me at Just Kingin on IG and Twitter as well.
Well, with that said, we're done.
We out of here.
Next time we'll try to do better. From the two of us to all of you. Talk to you next time.
Be easy.